Mine's not quite here right now. Vancouver Kingsway.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, first of all, it's the position of the New Democratic Party, and has for decades been the position, that we need dramatic reform to Canada's criminalized approach to cannabis. And we're in favor of legalizing. We're in favor of this bill, but we also want to do it right, Madam Speaker. You can't change 100 years of criminal, social, cultural attitude towards a substance like cannabis without taking great care. And the McClellan report was very clear that the federal government had to work with all levels of government, provincial, municipal, Indigenous, in order to have a successful rollout. Now, this bill, while better than the status quo, has significant gaps, and we heard this at committee, serious holes. It doesn't deal with pardons. We had Indigenous people, representatives testify at committee, Chief Isidore Day, who told us there hasn't been any negotiation or discussion with Indigenous people whatsoever prior to this. And they're going to have to roll out this bill and apply this bill on Indigenous reserves and bans. The Honourable Justice Minister just said that they're concerned about getting this out of the hands of organized crime and protecting children, yet this bill does not legalize edibles. It would have kept it illegal, period, but for the New Democrats pushing and pushing. And now they will be legal within 1 year of this bill becoming law. So this government is content to leave edibles and concentrates in the hands of organized crime, marketing to children. They're content to do that. That's the other gap. And finally, this bill continues and perpetuates the criminalized prohibitionist approach to cannabis. My question to the minister is this: in 2015, when this government promised Canadians legalization of cannabis, why didn't they tell Canadians that after this bill becomes law, there will be more cannabis offences in the criminal code after legalization than there's before? And why won't they work with provinces and municipalities who are asking this government to slow this process down instead of putting their own political interests ahead of sound legislation that really will protect children and provide good legislation in this country?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the comments made by my colleague across the way. We are committed to the passage of Bill C-45 in order to legalize cannabis in this country, strictly regulate and restrict access to cannabis, in order, as my friend articulated, to keep it out of the hands of children and keep the proceeds out of criminal organizations. We are committed to doing it right, and we are and will continue to work with all levels of government. We started that engagement and discussion and received substantive feedback through the substantive efforts of the task force that was constituted by our government, that received 30,000 submissions, including from provinces and territories, including from municipalities, including from law enforcement agencies, and we will continue to engage with them and are continuing to engage with them through my parliamentary secretary, the Minister of Health. This is something that we're committed to doing. We are injecting substantive monies into the provinces and territories, having substantive public education and communications campaign, and we have and will continue to engage in a substantive way with Indigenous communities to recognize their specific interests and desires with respect to their communities, and my colleagues and I are committed to engaging in that conversation on an ongoing basis in the lead up to the legalization of cannabis and strict regulation.
Johnson.